I've gotten to the point where my husband can be inside me for as long as he wants, and I just love the experience. It feels great. It feels so enjoyable. So one of the questions I've been getting a lot online of late is, Kaylin, how did you become a good bottom for your husband? Like, what's the process you went through? Did you explore the use of dildos? Did you practice on yourself? Like, what did you do? So I thought it might be interesting to do a YouTube video on the topic of how I learned to bottom. So hi, if we haven't met before, my name is Kaylin. I am a spiritual coach. I help others connect with their radiant, integrated, joyful selves. I've written a couple books on these topics, and I work with people around the world one-on-one, in addition to hosting this YouTube channel. All right, so you might think, Kaylin, how is bottoming a spiritual experience? Like, does it just send you into this state of cosmic euphoria? Is that why you're bringing it up here on your YouTube channel today? And maybe, I suppose, you can achieve a state of cosmic euphoria through anal sex. I am not going to comment on that experience at the moment, but I will say that the experience I've had to go through personally to get comfortable with bottoming is a deep spiritual experience, and I want to share with you the how and the why of that. So back in the day when I was coming out, I didn't put a lot of thought at all into anal sex. I honestly, when I was dating, I never even asked anybody like, oh, are you a top, you're bottom, what do you do? I kind of just naively assumed that everybody was just kind of versed and that you had figured that out. And also I've always been very side oriented. I've always just really enjoyed the masturbatory, the sensual, the massaging, the grinding, that sort of aspects of sex and sexuality. And when I met my husband, who I am deeply, deeply in love with and I think is absolutely sexy and wonderful, I found out that he would not be able to ever bottom for me. He's had some health issues where bottoming is a very uncomfortable, painful, sometimes dangerous experience for him. So in the first several years of our relationship, we just didn't do much of any kind of anal sex. Like, we really just were a lot about the more side play, and that was really great for us. However, when we started to explore the possibility of having sex with other people, I would see my husband topping other guys and see how much pleasure that brought him and how much joy that brought him. And he had never verbally been like, oh, I would love for you to bottom for me. It was more of like, hey, it's something I enjoy, but it's not a big deal for me. But it was something where I felt like I want to be able to offer my partner that. It's something I would like to be able to give him. And so we started trying to have me receive him inside of me, and it felt very unsafe. And unsafe in a couple ways. Like, one, yes, there's the physical aspect of, yes, you are much more likely to contract HIV as the receptive anal partner. Like, the vast majority of HIV acquisition is done through receptive anal sex. Done through receptive sex, vaginal or anal. And then of course there's the whole thing of like entering your body, and sex injuries are much more common to somebody's anus than they are to your penis, so you're much more likely to get injured, and you're letting somebody inside you, which feels very vulnerable. But the bigger thing that came up for me was around my masculinity and my social status. Now, we unfortunately live in a culture that either overtly or covertly says the masculine is better than the feminine. In gay culture, straight acting guys are given a lot more kudos and social presence and desirability stars than femme acting guys. In straight culture, same thing. Masculine men are shown as being better than feminine presenting men. And what this is misogyny. It means we're saying masculine is better than feminine. And a world where we saw both the masculine and the feminine as being equal, then it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if you present as more feminine or masculine. They're all beautiful. And that's something I've really worked in myself as I approach other people and try to see the sexiness and beauty in other people, to say, yeah, there's beauty in the whole spectrum of gender diversity, sexual diversity, sexuality diversity. And to see the sacredness, to see the beauty, to see the joy, to see the sexiness in everyone. But in myself, it was hard. In myself, I was like, no, I want to be one of those top tier gays. I want to be one of those top tier gays with the muscles and the big dick and the masculine presenting deep voice, like that sort of stuff. Because, well, a few things. One, it makes me feel safer. As a kid who was bullied tremendously for not being masculine enough, for not being man enough, to do those things that help me present as being more masculine makes me feel safer. And sometimes that's in a very literal way. We had a friend visiting us this weekend, and a person who was experiencing what we would call housing instability, more colloquially homelessness, came up and started talking to us. And he said to me, he's like, yeah, well, I wasn't afraid that he was going to do anything more than just talk, because I had, you and your husband are both, really buff, and he wasn't going to mess with you. So there is that physical aspect of safety by presenting as more masculine, but then there's also the energetic, that you're not going to have people make fun of you for your muscles. You're not going to have someone make fun of you when you present in a more heteronormative masculine way. And after enduring years bullying, to the point that I don't know how I didn't commit suicide, to avoid further rancor, to avoid further feelings of embarrassment and insufficiency, is something that I have subconsciously and sometimes consciously invested a great deal of energy in. And then, of course, there's the things we all fall prey to, of wanting to feel important, wanting to feel beautiful in the eyes of society, wanting to increase our status or our privilege, because, we get treated better, we get free things, people treat us with respect, they defer to us, they give us attention, they give us money. It's such a hard thing to uncouple worth from status, and it's something that I consciously work on and I try to go deeper with, but it's fucking hard. And so with this idea of exploring becoming more of a bottom, there was so much feeling of giving up my status, giving up a top is more valuable, a top is more desirable. Even if I like topping, right? Given my druthers again, I probably would be fully versed with my partner. That's not an option. With other guys, total top only. I am not going to let anybody else fuck me. That's something I want to keep sacred and help me feel safe, that it's just me and my husband. But there was also this other aspect of feeling like I'd be less valuable. And I did a whole other YouTube video just on this one idea, so feel free to check that out if you want to hear more around that. So when I would explore bottoming with my husband, initially for 2 years, probably more than that, a couple of years, 3-4 years, I couldn't let him in. If I was going to bottom for a night, I needed to spend the whole day with him. He needed to give me a full body massage. He needed to make me feel really, really safe and comfortable. And then he couldn't just plunge right in there. No, I would need to be rimmed for a bit, and then stimulated with one finger, and then maybe 2 fingers, then maybe you can go in, and then once you're in, you are only going to have about 40 seconds before I say, shop is closed, get out, visit another time. And I might sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. That's how dramatic it was. And thankfully my partner's understanding and would laugh and be like, okay, shop is closed. We'll try this again next week. And I made very marginal progress with allowing him to go inside me over those years, because there was still this psychological fear of being less than. And then a couple months ago, it might have only been a few weeks ago, I had this epiphany. I was walking down the street and this thought came to me which said, you are never going to be able to top your husband. It's not a possibility. So that means if you want to have a sexual life with him that is robust and encompassing of all the things that you can do together, you enjoy together, then you're going to have to learn to bottom. And similar to when I was coming out, the very first time I used the word gay in reference to myself, there was this feeling of both terror, but also liberation. It's oh my God, I just said it. I can't believe I just said it. I think we've all had that moment. When I said, okay, I can be a bottom. Why does the word bottom imply something lower, something at the bottom of the social totem pole? Why can't we use a different word? I can be a bottom. And I accepted that. And boom, the next day it was whoop, come on inside. Party's open. Barn doors are open wide. Come on in. And I told my husband about this realization. I went up to him and was so I was realizing I need to be a bottom if I'm going to be a good sexual partner for you. So I just want you to know I'm now identifying as a bottom when it comes to you. And he laughed and he's oh my God, I love you. You are so funny how you process things. But since that day, I've been able to just receive my partner pretty effortlessly and easily. And it's been pretty amazing. Not only have I been able to take him inside, but I've been able to enjoy it in a way that, anal sex before was just something I was tolerating. And thankfully, I'm a big believer that anal sex should never hurt. If you're experiencing pain, you're not doing it right. So, pain was never a huge part of it, though there would be intense discomfort and I'd be okay, we need to stop. And now it's just easy and pleasurable. And I've gotten to the point where my husband can be inside me for as long as he wants. And I just love the experience. It feels great. It feels so enjoyable. But for me, learning to bottom wasn't about needing to practice. It wasn't about getting a dildo to ride. It was about dealing what was going on in here, dealing with this. And I think this is so much the case with anything sex related, is it really is so much more about what's up here than it is what's going on down here, because those things are interconnected. I know so many people who have erection issues or think they have erection issues, but then they end up with a partner who's perfect for them and loving and supportive and doesn't demean them, and then they never have erection issues again. It's all so psychological. So anyhow, that's my story. If you want to see a nude retelling of this story, or me practicing some of the things we described today, you can head down to my link tree down below. If you want to see it in all its glory, you're welcome to check it out. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen. We're all on our own journeys of discovery and becoming and figuring out who we are and being the best versions of ourselves. And I know that every time I've let go of the who I need to be and the label of what society expects of me, I've always found a much more joyful, a much more deep experience of life. But it takes a lot of courage to let go of those things that you think are going to make you happy, that society tells you you need to do, and embrace the dangerous, embrace the taboo, embrace the forbidden, and learn to play there. Learn to see that you can have much more joy in this thing that you fear than you ever could when you were being restrained. And I think all of us as queer people know that. Life is better on the other side of coming out. Those of us who open up to our kinks or our proclivities know that there's a lot more freedom and a lot more joy once we finally stop suppressing it and just enjoy it. And you don't even always realize you're suppressing it. I didn't realize I was holding tension around bottoming. I didn't realize I was holding tension around coming out as gay. But once you recognize it, to go through that work and see how life gets better. Anyhow, hope this was valuable for you. Feel free to share it with somebody else who you think is struggling with similar things. Leave a comment. Thank you for your time and attention.